So good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. All right, good. How you doing? So let me jump in with the first slide if I could, and get that up in a moment. Until that does, what I want to talk to you about today is really the extraordinary world of technology that I see in an explosive period of growth. And that explosive period of growth is occurring because all of these technologies are converging, because these technologies are being accelerated by more and more available capital, but most importantly, by more and more individuals with a passion to make change. And I'll build on what I said yesterday. Today, we're living in a world where the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. And that's extraordinary. You want to become a billionaire? Help a billion people. And when I go and I talk to executives or entrepreneurs, here we go, my mission for you is when you see a problem, see an opportunity. So I've called this Goodbye Linear Thinking, Hello Exponentials, and it comes from the purview that I have in running the X Prize Foundation and Singularity University and 17 startups I've had over the years. I wrote this book this year I'm very proud of. It's the follow-on to Abundance. And this is a book that's written for entrepreneurs to wake people up and say, listen, guys, stop with the photo sharing apps, because today you have the ability, if you desire, to actually touch the lives of a billion people, to make this world an extraordinary place. And the book really focuses on exponential technologies, mindset, because mindset is the most important thing ever, and then access to the crowd for capital, for wisdom, for all kinds of things. Now, at Singularity University, we have about 5,000 applicants for 80 spots. Google just underwrote all of our graduate programs. We service the top Fortune 200 companies around the world. But our mantra is that as an individual, you can touch the lives of a billion people. And that's an extraordinary world to be alive in, because that was never true before. But today, when I speak and say, hey, you can do something and touch a billion people, people go, wow. And if you can, why would you not want to? So SU gave me this purview, and the reason that it exists is because of this concept we call exponentials. And exponentials are disruptive. And let me take a moment to just go to the basics here. When I say what is exponentials, what do they feel like? The realization is, as humans, we evolved with a structure of our brain and the way that we think to be local and linear. Because in the savannas of Africa, when we were evolving hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago, the world back then was local and linear. You know, nothing changed century to century, millennium to millennium. It was pretty much constant. So if I say you take 30 linear steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in 30 steps, you're 30 meters away. I'm back of the room over there. And all of us are great linear projectors, right? I can tell you'll be there in 5, there in 10, there in 20. But if I said to you, where are you going to be in 30 exponential steps, an exponential being a simple doubling, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, unless you have it memorized, very few of us say, oh yeah, in 30 doublings, I'll be a billion meters away. Put differently, I will have gone around the planet 26 times. And that disconnect between linear thinking and exponential growth is really what this entire conversation here at Ci2015 is about. And it looks like this. This is the curve. That red line is all of us. It's our board members, it's our politicians, it's our investors, it's our kids, it's our families, it's humanity. We're linear thinkers. We haven't had a software upgrade in 50,000 years. It's been quite a while. The yellow line is the tech we're using. It's AI, robotics, synthetic biology, and it truly is a different time. We're at the knee of the curve in many of these technologies that are going to massively transform every aspect of our lives, how we do our business, how we teach our kids, where we live, how we do politics. All of these things will change over the next 20 or 30 years. And the difference between that linear humanity and that exponential growth is either disruptive stress or disruptive opportunity, depending on your point of view. Right? If you're the kid in the garage who comes up with a new technology, it's disruptive opportunity. If you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, it's disruptive stress. I use this example of Kodak as a great example. I grew up with Kodak as the mainstay of a vacation. And what most people don't know is this company, at the height of its game in 1996, is employing 140,000 people, a $28 billion market cap. It had a brand like you could not buy. And 20 years earlier, in the lab at Kodak, a guy named Steven Sasson had come up with the digital camera. He had invented it. He understood its potential, but he walked into the boardroom of Kodak and he said, "Here it is, the future of Kodak." And they're going, "What, are you kidding me?" That's the size of a small toaster, and it takes 0.01 megapixel images in black and white. We're Kodak. We make beautiful high-resolution images. That's a toy for kids. And of course, Kodak ignores this. And in 2012, Kodak files for bankruptcy, disrupted by the very technology that they had invented. But they forgot what business they were in. They thought they were in the paper and chemicals business. They were in the giving memories to people business. Just their highest margins came when you printed 36 prints and only one came out, right? But you paid for all of them too. That's what a gimmick of that. But to put it in perspective, in the same year, in 2012, to put an exclamation point at the end of the sentence, another company in the imagery business, in the memory business, called Instagram, gets acquired by Facebook for $1 billion. But they've got 13 employees. And I've given this moment in time, which we're going to see over and over and over again, when a linear thinking company is being disrupted by exponential technologies. I call this the new Kodak moment. Oh, come on, a little giggle, please. So this is recently from the pages of Allstate Insurance. We'll Google /Allstate revenues, and here's the summary. It says in 2013, U.S. agent commissions on auto, home, and commercial insurance totaled $50 billion, and that could go to zero. And we're going to see this over and over again, where companies come in out of no place. Apple into the music business, Microsoft into the gaming business, and causing disruption in the adjacencies. And so when I talk to companies and CEOs, those of you in the room, I'm saying, listen, if you're not disrupting yourself, someone else is. If you're making great margins, believe me, somewhere, someplace, there is an entrepreneur looking at your margins and salivating. And they will be trying to disrupt you. Here's the stat you heard from Tanya earlier. 40% of today's Fortune 500 companies will be gone in 10 years. Put differently, this is from Richard Foster at Yale, who looked at companies on the S&P 500. Started one in the 1920s. You had a 67-year run rate. You could kick back, relax, sell your product, don't worry about it. You'd be dead before your company was in trouble. Today, you have a 15-year average lifespan on the S&P 500. Other thing going on is we're going from I've got an idea to I run a billion-dollar company faster than ever before. Right? So look at these companies. Chad Hurley starts YouTube on his credit cards, sells to Google for $1.8 billion, $1.6 billion 18 months later. Don't talk to me about Uber going from $0 to $40 billion in 5 years. Oh my God. Right? Palmer Luckey on a Kickstarter campaign raises $3 million for Oculus Rift, sells it to Facebook for $2 billion 18 months later. Insane. This is just the beginning. Is it that we've gotten smarter? Why is this happening? It isn't that we've gotten smarter as humans, it's that the ability to actually start a startup and make attempts has gotten so much cheaper. It was $5 million for internet startup in 2000, it's $5,000 today, right? It's a 1,000-fold reduction. And now when you start up, you have access to all of these extraordinary capabilities, so the number of attempts is skyrocketing. And you're going to have more and more winners trying new business models. All of that's being driven by this curve, the rapid march of computational power over 110 years. In 2010, the average computer you'd go down and purchase at Dick Smith Electronics here would be 100 billion calculations per second. By 2023, the average $1,000 computer that you go down to Dick Smith, if they still exist, Dick's a friend, but if they still exist, is going to be calculating now at the rate of the human brain. It doesn't stop there, right? Because 25 years later, now $1,000 buys you the computational power of the entire human race. Now your kid's homework gets really, really easy. So I teach this in what I call a context of the 6 Ds. When technology becomes deceptively growing, it then becomes disruptive, it dematerializes, demonetizes, and democratizes industries. When I say dematerializes, and this is for the entrepreneurs in the audience, your job is to take a large product or a service and make it into bits and dematerialize it, right? All of these things now fit in my pocket. My flashlight has been dematerialized, an app on my phone. I don't carry a GPS in the dashboard of my car anymore, or record collections. All these things have been physically gone poof. They're now bits that are free to replicate. And when that happens, it demonetizes. Right? And all of these products and services taking the money out of the business and put it back in your pockets. The Craigslist in the United States decimated the classified ads and destroyed the newspapers, put the money back in the consumers. And of course, the benefit of all this is that you can no longer just reach 1 million people. All of a sudden now you can reach 1 billion people. So there'll be 1 billion handsets in Africa this next year. And you can be a guy or a gal in the garage and start a product or a service and reach 1 billion people in Africa. You had to have been Muhtar Kent, the chairman of Coca-Cola, or Jeff Immelt at GE to have that kind of a span, but today we all can. This is when it starts to get really exciting. So riding on top of the back of all of these technologies, on top of Moore's Law, a whole slew of different technologies, all of these growing exponentially, all of them sort of on the fabrics and the growth of Moore's Law. And let me just share with you a few of these. Time is clicking down quick. So let me just start with AI. So artificial intelligence perhaps is one of the most powerful tech that's coming online right now. It is the technology that's allowing a computer to basically survey the world's information and give you the perfect answer. We may know it as Siri on your iPhone. I prefer Jarvis from Iron Man. And I think we're going to all have Jarvis-like capability within a decade's time. Maybe not perfect AI, but AI at least good enough. So 2 years ago, Mike Roden, who runs the Watson program, decided to demonstrate what IBM's Watson computer was able to do. And he basically went up against the top 2 Jeopardy champions. The guy had won the most money, and the guy had won the most number of games. Let's take a look what happens, and then we'll discuss it.
Ken, you're in the first position. Please make a selection.
Never said this on TV. Chicks dig me for 200, please do.
Kathleen Kenyon's excavation of this city, mentioned in Joshua, showed the walls had been repaired 17 times. Watson.
What is Jericho?
Correct.
400, same category.
This mystery author and her archaeologist hubby dug in hopes of finding the lost Syrian city of Urkesh. Watson?
Who is Agatha Christie?
Correct. Watson?
Who is Mary Leakey?
You're right. Watson?
What is Crete?
Yes.
Let's finish Chicks Dig Me.
Edmel?
Now, you have to understand, this computer was about the size of the stage. It was hooked up not to the internet, but to a set of memory banks. It had download Wikipedia. It had some 3,000 Power 7 core processors. Could process 1 million books per second. But it was able to look at all the data it had in its brain and find the relevant answer and give it to you. And that's really what AI is. But this is so 2 years ago, right? And what's happened since then is that Watson has been ported to the cloud. An open API has been put on there for entrepreneurs to write applications on top. They put $100 million into a venture fund to fund entrepreneurs. The first place that Watson is going is medical school, working with ANZ in the banking industry as well, and working with other companies in fashion, in food, in all kinds of different areas. So what happens when an AI is able to become your partner and help you invent, and help you design, and help you answer questions? This is a very rapid, very powerful technology coming our way. We have a sensor explosion. Here's the guy that invented a digital camera that was ignored by the board, 0.01 megapixels. Of course, here's the digital camera today, and it's 1 billion times better. But guys, this is where it is today. We haven't met the perfection of cameras, right? It continues on. In 10 years, it's 1,000 times better. In 20 years, it's 1 million times better. In 30 years, it's 1 billion times better. This march continues on. And so we'll have, high-definition cameras the size of microscopic insect eyes woven into our clothing. This is the first inertial measurement unit. It took us to Earth orbit and to the moon. Today, it's $1 on your phone. In the future, it'll be molecular in size. This is the first GPS. $120,000, 53 pounds. Imagine this thing on the dashboard of your SUV, huh? And of course now it's just a few bucks as chips on your phone. So sensors are exploding, and we're living in a world today of some 12 to 20 billion connected devices. According to my friends at Cisco, we'll be at 50 to 100 billion by 2020. And each of these connected devices have a dozen sensors. We're going to be living in a world of 1 trillion sensors where you can know anything you want, anytime you want, anywhere you want. And how you use that to make business decisions, to create new products and services is extraordinary. Imagine being able to ask any question as an entrepreneur or as an executive and know that you can find the answers by being smart enough to figure it out. This is a Tesla plant. Anybody see the carbon-based overlord in the photo? Let me help you. It's all about robotics. Robotics are coming into every aspect of our lives. They're coming into retail, coming into our homes, coming into hospitals. You know the place in the world that the most robots are being ordered today? In China. China's going to have to compete when their labor rates are no longer the lowest in the world because robots are the lowest in the world. This is another robot. This is Google's autonomous car. Now, this car sparked every major auto manufacturer to be building autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicles. And it's going to change everything. And what most people don't think about is the domino effects of all of these technologies, one after the other, right? Because as soon as you have autonomous cars, I don't need to own a car anymore. All I need to do is own access to a car. If I've got a date on Friday night, a Ferrari shows up. My in-laws are over on Saturday night, an SUV shows up. And all of a sudden, if cars are autonomous, they don't crash. So I don't need to have auto insurance anymore. So that goes away. And if cars don't crash, I don't have to have a 4,000-pound car to protect me against the 5,000-pound SUV. So the cars become lighter, so less fuel. And oh, by the way, you can put 8 times as many cars on the road, so I don't have to build as many roads. And I don't need driveways or parking garages, and those things go away. And it begins to have this domino effect on where we live, how we work. Let me share with you a quick view of what it's like inside one of these Google cars, which I've had a chance to ride a number of times, not on a normal drive, but actually on a slalom course.
Oh my God. Oh dear Lord.
Oh my God, this is
Oh my God.
You get the idea. And this is Google's most recent car. This is a car with no steering wheel, no brake, nothing. You'll see that LiDAR on the roof, but this is a blind gentleman who's been taken for a ride.
I love this.
And so what is that car seeing? On the rooftop of that car is something called a LiDAR. We're not seeing the image right there, but the LiDAR basically is looking at everything within 100 meters. It's generating 750 megabytes of data per second in high resolution. It sees everything. And here's one of the points. These LiDARs, not one car, but millions of cars are seeing everything. We have 3 orbital constellations on orbit today that are providing high-resolution imagery from space. We're going to have drones. We're going to have Google Glass. It's the notion that there is nothing being done in secret anymore. Privacy is gone, long gone. And it's going to change how we structure our societies. It also is going to change what you as an entrepreneur think of as your competitive advantage, right? You can watch your competitor's supply chain deliver raw product into the factory and final stuff coming out. You can count the number of cars in your competition's parking lot and make projections on revenues and sort of stock prices. You can do all kinds of things. People aren't thinking about this stuff. Another field currently in disruption is 3D printing. We saw a little bit about this. 3D printing is the ability to basically generate any design layer by layer by layer from the ground up. These are polygons. These are high-temperature titanium turbine blades for the next-generation jet engines. These are homes. This company in China 3D printed 10 homes in 24 hours for $5,000 each. And last year, it 3D printed a 3-story apartment building. This is a person who lost a right lower limb, scanned their left limb, flipped the image, and 3D printed a prosthetic composite. For the women in the audience, imagine being able to 3D print a beautiful dress and shoes and a purse that you found in Bangladesh that morning, wear it at night, and recycle it and get something else the next day. It's going to transform the entire retail business. This is a 3D printed ring that comes off the printer working instantly. I love this. This is a friend of mine, Jay Rogers, who created the first 3D printed car. It's $15,000. It goes 80 kilometers on a charge. It's a 12-hour print time. But it's just the beginning. But talk about changes, fundamental changes, and the basic things. This is the equivalent to the early image writer. Remember that thing from Apple that went, really slow. Last technology I'll talk about is genomics and healthcare. I started a company 2 years ago, announced it last year, called Human Longevity. Two of my partners, Craig Venter, sequenced the first human genome in 2001, $100 million in 9 months. Bob Hurry is the other co-founder with me. Bob is the top stem cell scientist, CEO of stem cell, of cell gene therapeutics, a brilliant, brilliant man. And together we formed this company called Human Longevity. Our mission is to add 30 to 40 healthy years on everyone's life. And we've built the world's largest genome sequencing facility on the planet. We're sequencing at the rate of 100,000 per year, growing to the rate of 1 million people per year. And what we're doing is that we're combining into all of this data, clinical records, your microbiome, your high-resolution MRI imaging, your genome from your mother and from your father, all of this data, and then we're doing massive data mining. Franz Ach, who ran Google Translate for a decade at Google, translating between 90 language pairs, has joined us and is mining this data for breakthroughs in cancer, heart disease, neurodegenerative disease, why some people live long, why others do not. So here's the big picture. We just crossed the 7 billion mark. 2010, we had 1.8 billion people connected online. By 2020, that number is going from 1.8 billion to at least 5 billion people, right? 3 billion new consumers and thinkers and innovators and designers who we've never met because they've never been connected. They've never bought anything, are coming online. Next 5 years, guys, next 5 years. They represent tens of trillions of dollars. If they're not your customer, they're your customer's customer. They're asking, Joyce yesterday, where are they going to bank? ANZ, of course. But it doesn't even stop there. This guy, Zuck, at Facebook or Google, both of them committed to global constellations of drones and balloons, and Elon's committed $10 billion to a global satellite constellation with $1 billion backed by Google, and Richard Branson at Virgin and Paul Jacobs at Qualcomm. All of these guys have committed to giving a megabit connection to 7 billion people on this planet. And so as those people come online, 5 billion new minds, it's a new ballgame. So here's my 4 critical insights. The only constant is change, and the rate of change is increasing. You either disrupt yourself or someone else will. Competition is no longer the multinational overseas. It's the guy or gal in the garage. It's the exponential entrepreneur. And if you're dependent on innovation solely inside your company, you cannot compete. So a lot of photos here. If you want a copy of these PowerPoint slides, if you just text your first name and email to +1 310, so forth, just first name and email, this will be up for the next couple of hours. My server will send you a download of the slides. So an honor and a pleasure. I wish I could spend all day talking about this stuff. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Peter Diamandis, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.